Ever wonder why only a rare few seem to get ahead while everyone else feels stuck on repeat? It isn't about luck, and it isn't about having more talent. The difference comes down to one simple thing: how they treat their time. Most of us let our lives leak away, one innocent distraction at a time. We scroll through our phones, we wait for the perfect moment, and we put things off, thinking we have forever. We don't realize that every wasted minute is a minute we can never get back. We are busy, but we aren't moving forward. Be That 1% is here to fix that. This isn't just a book of complicated theories, it is a practical guide to waking up. Inside, you will learn to spot the hidden habits that are stealing your hours and exactly how to stop them. You will discover the difference between simply wasting time and investing it to build a better life, turning small moments into big results. If you are ready to stop letting the day control you and start designing the life you want, you are in the right place. Don't let another hour slip away. Turn the page and become the person who makes every moment count. Chapter 1: Stolen Minutes. If a stranger walked up to you on the street, snatched a $100 bill from your hand and set it on fire, you would be furious. You would scream. You might even throw a punch. You would feel the loss immediately and visceral anger at the disrespect. We protect our money with passwords, banks, and safes because we understand its value. We know that once money is burned, it is gone. Yet, every single day, you willingly open your wallet of time and let hours drift away like smoke in the wind. You hand over your most precious currency to things that hate you. You donate minutes to doom scrolling, you sacrifice hours to fake busyness, and you pay a fortune in opportunity costs to the god of distraction. You are being robbed blind, but because the thief is quiet and the currency is invisible, you don't even call the police. You just shrug and say, "I'll do it tomorrow." This ends now. You are reading this because somewhere deep in your gut you feel the leak. You know you are capable of more, yet you find yourself ending days exhausted but unfulfilled, busy but stagnant. You are not here for a gentle pat on the back or a new color-coded calendar system. You are here because you are ready to stop bleeding out. You are here to confront the brutal reality that your problem isn't that you don't have enough time. Your problem is how casually you treat the time you already have. The silent robbery. Most people live with a fundamental delusion. They act as if their time is infinite and their money is scarce. The top 1%, the people who actually change the world and build lives of freedom, flip this equation entirely. They treat money as a renewable resource, but they treat time as a non-refundable currency. They understand a terrifying truth that the average person ignores. Every single choice you make is a purchase. When you spend 30 minutes arguing with a stranger on the internet, you have purchased that argument with a chunk of your life you will never get back. When you spend an hour in a meeting that could have been an email, you have burned a piece of your future. This is the invisible leak. It is rarely a massive explosion that ruins a life. It is death by 1,000 cuts. It is the just 10 more minutes of aimless browsing. It is the gossip that adds nothing to your bank account or your soul. It is the micro-waste that seems harmless in the moment, but catastrophic in the aggregate. You might tell yourself that these are just small moments. What is 10 minutes? What is an hour? But this is the math of mediocrity. If you waste 1 hour a day, that is 365 hours a year. That is 9 full 40-hour work weeks. Imagine what you could build with 9 extra weeks of focused effort every year. That is a new language. That is a finished book. That is a launched business. That is the difference between the life you have and the life you want. By ignoring these leaks, you are not just wasting time, you are systematically dismantling your own potential. The illusion of movement. Perhaps you aren't scrolling. Perhaps you are one of the hard workers. You run from task to task, your inbox is always open, your phone is always buzzing, and you wear your stress like a badge of honor. You tell everyone, "I'm just so busy." But let's be brutally honest. Busyness is often just laziness wrapped in anxiety. It is lazy thinking. It is easier to answer 50 unimportant emails than to sit in silence and do the one difficult, scary thing that actually moves the needle on your goals. This is the trap of fake busyness. You confuse activity with progress and noise with results. You feel like you are moving because you are sweating, but you are on a treadmill. You are expending massive amounts of energy to stay in exactly the same place. This is a shield. As long as you are busy, you don't have to face the scary reality that you aren't actually producing anything of value. You use the chaos of your day to hide from the silence where your dreams are dying. Real progress is quiet. It is focused. It is often boring. The 1% do not run around like headless chickens. They move with lethal precision. They do not find time. They seize it. They strip away the noise until only the essential remains. If you are constantly overwhelmed, it is not because you are important. It is because you are undisciplined. You have allowed the world to dictate your schedule instead of designing it yourself. You have become a passenger in your own life, reacting to other people's emergencies, while your own ambitions gather dust in the corner. The bankruptcy of potential. If you continue on this path, the result is not just a messy schedule. The result is a tragedy. The cost of stolen minutes is not paid today. It is paid by your future self with interest. This is the concept of negative compounding. Just as money grows over time when invested, wasted time compounds into regret. Imagine waking up 10 years from now. You look in the mirror and see a face that is older, more tired, and haunted by a specific kind of pain. The pain of, I could have. You watch people who are less talented than you, less smart than you, and less capable than you surpass you. They didn't have magic powers. They just didn't leak their life away in 10-minute increments. They bought assets with their time while you bought distraction. The most dangerous consequence of this waste is the erosion of self-respect. Every time you tell yourself you are going to do something, write that proposal, go to the gym, learn that skill, and then let the time slip away, you are breaking a promise to yourself. When you break enough promises, you stop trusting yourself. You begin to identify as a person who talks but does not do. Your confidence shatters. You start setting smaller goals because you know, deep down, you won't follow through. You accept a smaller life, not because you lack potential, but because you lack control. This is the plateau that feels like a cage. You feel stuck, clawing at the walls of your career or your personal growth, wondering why the breakthrough never comes. It doesn't come because you are paying for it with counterfeit currency. You are trying to buy a 1% life with 99% habits. It will never work. The Protocol of the Elite. The goal of this book is not to make you a robot. It is to make you a master. By the time you finish these pages, you will undergo a total identity rebuild. You will shift from a time waster, someone who is reactive, excuse-driven, and careless, to a time investor. A time investor is someone who views every hour as a block of capital to be allocated for maximum return. We are going to dismantle your current operating system and replace it with the framework of the elite. This requires a specific sequence. We cannot hand you a tactic for focus if you still believe you are a victim of your circumstances. We cannot teach you to compound your tomorrow if you refuse to own your today. First, we will instill a ruthless awareness of where your time actually goes. You will learn to see the matrix of distraction that surrounds you. You will identify the silent thieves that are picking your pocket every hour. You will feel a productive, hot anger at how much life you have given away for free. This anger is good. It is fuel. Then we will move to ownership. You will stop blaming your boss, your spouse, your kids, or the economy for your schedule. You will learn that if you don't design your life, someone else will design it for you, and they won't design it with your happiness in mind. We will teach you the language of winners, shifting from "I don't have time" to "I did not choose to prioritize that." Only then will we hand you the weapons of execution. You will learn about the power of ruthless focus, not as a buzzword, but as a biological necessity for high performance. You will learn to kill fake busyness and separate the tasks that make you feel good from the tasks that make you rich and free. You will master the art of acting now, not later, destroying the procrastination habit that has kept you small. Finally, you will learn to design your days and compound tomorrow, creating a system where success becomes the default setting of your life, not a lucky accident. The ledger of your life. There is a fundamental difference in attitude between the winners and the losers in the game of life. The loser says, "The day got away from me." They speak as if time is a wild animal that escaped their cage. They view themselves as helpless spectators to the passing of hours. They say, "I'll do it when things calm down," ignoring the fact that life never calms down, it only speeds up. The winner says, "If I lost the day, I allowed it." They take total, radical responsibility. They look at their calendar and see a mirror of their choices. They understand that a day is nothing more than a vote for the person they are becoming. Every hour of deep work is a vote for the 1%. Every hour of mindless scrolling is a vote for mediocrity. You are standing at a precipice. Behind you is the graveyard of lost hours, the projects you never started, the skills you never mastered, the potential you suffocated with distraction. Ahead of you is a different arc. It is a life where you build real assets, where you move from behind to ahead, where you command respect because you are reliable, focused, and effective. But to cross that bridge, you must first accept the cold, hard reality of the ledger. You must stop looking at time as a river that flows endlessly and start seeing it for what it truly is. There is a mechanism at play, a set of laws that govern your hours whether you acknowledge them or not. You have been playing a game without reading the rulebook, and you have been losing. The first step to stopping the bleeding is not a calendar hack. It is a fundamental shift in how you perceive the very nature of your existence. You need to understand why the 1% look at a clock and see something entirely different than what you see. They don't see numbers, they see a countdown, and they know exactly what happens when the timer hits 0. Are you brave enough to look at the math? Because the truth about time is not soft, and it is not forgiving. It is a hard law, and it is waiting for you on the next page. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Time Truths. Stop saying you want to make time. It is the single most ridiculous phrase in the human language. You cannot make time. You cannot print it, you cannot borrow it from a bank, and you cannot manufacture it in a factory. You can only spend it. The moment you woke up this morning, the clock started ticking down on a non-negotiable 24-hour balance, and every second that passes is a coin dropping into a well that has no bottom. You will never see that coin again. Most people live in a soft, fuzzy reality where time is just a vague flow that happens to them. They treat hours like an infinite resource, assuming there will always be another tomorrow to fix the mistakes of today. This is why they stay average. The 1% operate in a different reality entirely. To them, time is a hard law. It is physics. It is math. It is a ledger that must balance at the end of every single day. You are reading this chapter to shatter the illusion that your time is your own to waste. You are here to learn the uncomfortable physics of high performance. The physics of your existence. If you refuse to accept gravity, you will fall off a cliff. If you refuse to accept the laws of time, you will fall off the trajectory of your potential. The reason productivity hacks and fancy apps have failed you in the past is not because the tools were bad, it is because your worldview was broken. You cannot fix a structural problem with a cosmetic solution. You have been trying to manage a resource you do not respect. The first law you must accept is that time limits are absolute. There is no negotiation. The president, the billionaire, and the person sleeping on the street all get exactly the same allotment of seconds. The difference is not in the amount, it is in the allocation. When you view time as soft, you allow yourself to drift. You think that scrolling for 30 minutes is harmless because it feels weightless. But when you view time as hard, you realize that those 30 minutes were a distinct, tangible chunk of your life that you just set on fire. Denial of this truth leads to chronic self-sabotage. It allows you to live in the fantasy of the infinite tomorrow. You tell yourself that you will write the book, start the business, or learn the language someday. But someday is not a day of the week. It is a lie you tell yourself to feel better about your inaction. The danger of this pretense is that it numbs you. It acts as an anesthetic, keeping you comfortable while your life slips through your fingers. You need to wake up from the anesthesia. You need to feel the sharp, stinging reality that every day spent is gone forever. The currency of life. Imagine if every time you bought a coffee, you had to pay with a piece of your own skin. You would be incredibly careful about how much coffee you drank. You would measure the cost versus the benefit with extreme precision. Yet, you pay for distractions with something far more valuable than skin. You pay with your life. Time is a non-refundable currency. Every time you say yes to a mindless activity, you are making a purchase. You are walking up to the counter of existence and saying, I would like to trade 1 hour of my limited time on Earth for this video of a cat falling off a table. When you frame it this way, the transaction looks insane, but you make this transaction every day. The 1% constantly ask themselves a brutal question before they engage in any activity. Would I buy this with my life? If the answer is no, they walk away. They treat their hours as spending decisions, not as fillers to kill the silence between events. This currency has a unique property. It compounds. Your life right now is nothing more than the compound interest of thousands of small-time decisions you made 3, 5, or 10 years ago. If you are fit, wealthy, and skilled, it is because you invested your time currency into assets that grew. If you are stuck, broke, or unskilled, it is because you spent your currency on liabilities that depreciated. We also need to talk about debt. When you waste time today, you are not just losing the present moment, you are borrowing from your future self. Every hour of procrastination is a debt you charge to the version of you that exists next week or next year. You are forcing that future person to work harder, stress more, and suffer deeper because you didn't want to do the work today. Visualizing this transfer of pain is critical. You must stop seeing your future self as a stranger and start treating them like a partner you refuse to betray. The 3 great lies. To fully adopt this hard law mindset, we have to dismantle the 3 myths that keep you poor in time and potential. These are the stories you tell yourself to justify the waste. The first myth is the fantasy of later. You convince yourself that there will be a perfect season in the future when life calms down, the kids grow up, or the job gets easier. This is a hallucination. Responsibilities do not decrease as you get older, they increase. Chaos does not subside, it evolves. Waiting for a calm period conditions you to be a waiter, not a doer. The 1% know that the perfect time never arrives, so they work in the imperfect now. The second myth is the cult of motivation. You think you need to feel like doing the work before you do it. You treat motivation as a requirement, whereas high performers treat it as a bonus. If you only work when you feel excited, you will lose to the person who works when they feel bored, tired, or afraid. Motivation is a fair-weather friend. Discipline is the loyal partner who shows up in the storm. You must learn to decouple your actions from your feelings. The third myth is the identity trap. I'm just bad with time. This is a fixed mindset belief that absolves you of responsibility. It suggests that time management is a genetic trait, like eye color, rather than a skill, like typing. No one is born with a calendar in their brain. Time respect is trainable. By saying, I'm bad at this, you are giving yourself permission to fail. You must replace that script with, I am currently unskilled at this, but I am learning. The brutal audit. Now we move from philosophy to the ledger. You cannot change what you do not measure. If you ran a business and didn't know where your money was going, you would go bankrupt. You are currently running the business of your life without a balance sheet. It is time to conduct a time ledger audit. This is not a complicated app. It is a piece of paper and a pen. For 3 days, you are going to track your activity in 15 to 30-minute blocks. You will write down exactly what you did, not what you intended to do, but what you actually did. If you stared at the wall for 20 minutes, write it down. If you doom scrolled for 45 minutes, write it down. Once you have this data, you are going to label every single block with one of three tags: investment, maintenance, or waste. Investment is anything that builds your future: learning, creating, health. Maintenance is keeping the lights on, showering, commuting, basic admin. Waste is everything else. You must review this ledger with brutal honesty. It will be painful. You will see hours of your life bleeding out in ways you didn't notice. That pain is the point. Once you see the waste, you apply the future self-tax reframe. Before you engage in a waste activity, say this out loud: I am taxing my future for this. Say it when you pick up the remote. Say it when you open the gossip app. Notice how the decision suddenly feels expensive. The goal is to bring the long-term consequence right into the present moment, making the cost visceral and immediate. Finally, you must adopt the hour as asset mindset. You stop having freestyle hours. Every hour gets a job description before it begins. You decide in advance: this hour is for building, or this hour is for recovery. You eliminate the gray zone where you are half working and half distracted. When an hour has a job, you know instantly if you are firing it or letting it work for you. Anchors and alarms. To keep this truth front and center, you need visual triggers. Your brain is wired to forget pain and seek comfort. You need external reminders that time costs money. Put a sticky note on your computer monitor that asks a simple, terrifying question: is this worth an hour of my life? Change your phone lock screen to a mantra that snaps you out of the trance. Set a daily reminder on your phone for 8 p.m. that simply says, "Where did my time go today?" Use timers to expose the drift. We are terrible at estimating time. We think we check email for 2 minutes, but it is actually 12. Set a 10-minute timer when you go to do a quick check of anything. When the alarm goes off, you will likely be shocked to find you are still deep in the weeds. This adjusts your internal clock and teaches you just how slippery time really is. End your day with a micro-reflection. Ask yourself, what did today really buy me? Did you buy progress, or did you buy distraction? Identify one specific pattern of waste from the day. Maybe it was the post-lunch slump or the morning news cycle, and make a specific plan to plug that leak tomorrow. Celebrate the one good decision you made. Did you close a tab? Did you say no to a meeting? That is a win. Stack those wins. The sting of reality. As you integrate these truths, your experience of life will change. In the beginning, the outcome will be discomfort. This is a good sign. You will feel a physical sting when you realize you have just wasted 30 minutes. You will stop enjoying your distractions because you can no longer ignore the price tag attached to them. You will see your biggest time leaks clearly, stripped of the excuses you used to cover them up. As you progress to excellent outcomes, that sting turns into power. You will begin to pause before you spend. You will catch yourself reaching for the phone and stop, asking if this is a transaction you really want to make. You will actively choose investment activities more often, not because you are forcing yourself, but because you prefer the return on investment. Your days will feel intentional. The randomness will vanish, replaced by a sense of directed energy. The best outcome is a total shift in identity. You will live by the rule, I don't casually spend my life. You will measure your decisions by their long-term impact, not their short-term comfort. Your new beliefs about time will guide your yes and no automatically. You won't need willpower to avoid waste any more than you need willpower to avoid burning your hand on a hot stove. You just know it hurts, so you don't do it. The trap of guilt. There is a danger here. When you first see the ledger and realize how much life you have wasted over the last decade, you may feel crushed by regret. You might look at the lost years and feel a heavy shame. This is a trap. Guilt is a passive emotion. It does not build the future. It only mourns the past. If you wallow in guilt, you will often escape back into distraction just to numb the pain, creating a cycle of failure. Treat your past waste as tuition. You paid a high price to learn how valuable time is. Now that you have paid the tuition, graduate. Extract the lesson and move forward. Do not let the ghost of yesterday steal the hours of today. Avoid the pendulum swing into rigidity. You might try to schedule every single minute of your day perfectly, turning your life into a spreadsheet. This leads to anxiety. When life inevitably goes off script, you will break. You must intentionally schedule flexible blocks and recovery blocks. A machine needs maintenance, so do you. Finally, beware of the short-term sprint. You might go extreme for a week, sleeping 4 hours and working 18, fueled by this new revelation. You will burn out. The 1% do not sprint until they collapse. They march at a pace they can sustain for decades. Aim for sustainable shifts. Review your progress weekly and adjust gently. Do not try to become a different person overnight. Become a different person 1 hour at a time. The missing piece. You now understand the physics. You know that time is currency, that it is non-refundable, and that you are currently spending it on things that do not serve you. You have the ledger, you have the tax, you have the mindset. But there is still a massive vulnerability in your system. You can know all the truth in the world. You can value your time at $1 million an hour, and you can still end up with an empty day. Why? Because realizing the value of the treasure is only the first step. The second step is realizing that there are forces actively trying to take it from you. You might be the owner of the bank account, but right now, you aren't the only one with a debit card. You are surrounded by people, obligations, and social contracts that feel entitled to swipe your card whenever they please. You can stop wasting your own time, but that won't stop the world from trying to waste it for you. Knowing the truth is useless if you don't have the authority to enforce it. It is time to look at who is actually holding the pen when your schedule is written. Chapter 3. Own Your Hours. The day got away from me. It is the most common confession in the modern world. You say it with a sigh, usually around 6 p.m. when you look at your to-do list and realize you haven't crossed off a single meaningful item. You say it as if the day were a mischievous puppy that slipped its leash and ran into traffic. You say it to absolve yourself of guilt. After all, if the day got away, it implies that you were chasing it, that you were a victim of speed, circumstance, and chaos. It implies that you had good intentions, but the world just wouldn't cooperate. This is a lie. The day did not get away from you. You gave it away. You handed it over, piece by piece, in a series of microtransactions you didn't even notice you were making. You gave 30 minutes to a crisis that wasn't actually urgent. You gave an hour to a meeting where your presence was decorative, not functional. You gave your evening to a stream of notifications because you were too passive to turn your phone over. You are not a victim of your schedule. You are the architect of it. And right now, you are designing a prison and complaining about the bars. This chapter is about the most radical shift you can make in your life, the shift from passenger to driver. Until you accept total brutal ownership of every single hour in your week, no productivity hack will save you. You can buy the most expensive planner in the bookstore, but if you believe that other people own your time, that planner will remain a graveyard of good intentions. The architect and the passenger. The fundamental difference between the 1% and everyone else is their locus of control. This is a psychological concept that defines where you believe the power in your life resides. Most people have an external locus of control regarding time. They believe their schedule is dictated by their boss, their spouse, their kids, or the economy. They use language like, "I have to," "they made me," or "I had no choice." When you live this way, frustration is your baseline state because you are constantly dancing to someone else's tune. The 1% possess an internal locus of control. They believe, where my time goes is my choice, period. Even in a strict job, even with a demanding family, they recognize that they are constantly making choices. If they stay late at work, they acknowledge, I am choosing to stay late because I value this job more than I value leaving right now. It might be a hard choice, but it is still a choice. This shift changes everything. When you stop saying, I don't have time, and start saying, I am not choosing to prioritize that, you move from helplessness to power. I don't have time to work on my side project sounds like a tragedy. I am choosing to watch TV instead of working on my side project sounds like a decision. And decisions can be changed. Ownership turns frustration into fuel. It forces you to look at the wreckage of a wasted week and say, I did this. And because I did this, I can undo it. The mirror on the wall. If you want to know who you really are, don't look at your vision board. Don't look at your Instagram bio. Look at your calendar from the last 2 weeks. Your calendar is the only honest mirror you own. It does not care about your intentions or your values. It only records your actions. You might claim that your family is your top priority, but if your calendar shows 80 hours of work and 0 hours of focused family time, your calendar is calling you a liar. You might claim you are an aspiring entrepreneur, but if your calendar shows 15 hours of Netflix and 0 hours of business strategy, the truth is staring you in the face. This is why most people hate looking at their past schedules. It exposes the mismatch between the person they claim to be and the person they actually are. The 1% do not look away. They stare into that mirror until it becomes uncomfortable. They accept that their hours are the raw data of their character. If you want to change your life, you have to stop judging yourself by your thoughts and start judging yourself by your blocks. The lies we tell ourselves. Before we can fix your schedule, we have to destroy the myths you use to protect your ego. These are the shields you hold up to avoid taking responsibility. The first myth is the magic tool fallacy. You convince yourself that you just haven't found the right app yet. You think that if you download the new task manager or buy the leather-bound journal, suddenly your behavior will change. This is delusional. A tool only amplifies what is already there. If you are disciplined, a planner makes you lethal. If you are chaotic and reactive, a planner just becomes another thing you ignore. You don't need a better system. You need a better spine. The second myth is the chaos defense. You tell yourself, my life is just too crazy to control. You wear your busyness like a shield, using the noise of your life to justify your lack of progress. You pretend your situation is uniquely impossible. But chaos is not a weather event that happens to you. It is often a climate you create by refusing to set boundaries. You cannot control every emergency, but you can control how you prepare for them and how you respond to them. Chaos is something you influence, not something you obey. The third and most dangerous myth is, they own me. This is the belief that your boss, your clients, or your family have absolute dominion over your time. You say, I can't say no. What you really mean is, I am afraid of the discomfort of saying no. Even in the most constrained environments, there is room to negotiate, to buffer, and to push back. When you claim you have no power, you are really just asking for permission to remain a victim. The red pen audit. Now we move to the practical application. You are going to perform a calendar audit. This is not a mental exercise. It is a forensic investigation. Take your calendar from the last 2 weeks. If you don't keep a digital calendar, reconstruct your days from memory or your browser history. You need to see the blocks. Now, you are going to color code them into 3 categories. First, mark the me blocks. These are the hours spent on your goals, your health, your skills, and your high-value future work. Second, mark the others blocks. These are the hours you gave away to someone else's agenda, meetings you didn't need to be in, favors you didn't want to do, and obligations you accepted out of guilt. Third, mark the noise. This is the time that vanished, the scrolling, the waiting, the indecision, the getting ready to work. Count the hours. The result is usually horrifying. Most people find that me time accounts for less than 10% of their life. They realize they are living as a support character in everyone else's movie. Face this reality. Let it hurt. That pain is the death of your excuses. The art of the polite no. Once you see the waste, you must stop the bleeding. This requires boundaries. A boundary is not a wall you build to shut people out. It is a perimeter you establish to protect your assets. The hardest part of ownership is the moment of the ask. Someone asks for your time, and your reflex is to say yes because you want to be helpful or liked. You need to overwrite this reflex with a replacement question. Before you agree to anything, a coffee chat, a meeting, a project, ask yourself, what will this replace? Time is finite. If you say yes to this hour-long meeting, you are saying no to an hour of deep work. You are saying no to the gym. You are saying no to your sleep. Make the trade-off visible. When you realize that saying yes to a random request means saying no to your own future, the answer becomes much easier. You also need scripts. Most people say yes because they don't know how to say no without sounding rude. You need to have phrases ready in the chamber. I'm heads down on a project right now and can't take this on. I'm not available at that time, but I can handle this via email. I have a hard stop at 4 p.m. Practice these. Say them to the mirror. The first time you use them, your heart will race. You will feel mean. But then, a miracle will happen. The world will not end. The other person will adjust, and you will have your hour back. Designing the non-negotiable. Ownership is not just about defense, it is about offense. You must move from protecting your time to designing it. You need to create future blocks. These are appointments with your future self. Pick a time, maybe Tuesday and Thursday mornings from 8 to 10, and block it out for your most important work. Treat this block with the same reverence you would treat a meeting with the CEO. If someone asks, "Are you free Tuesday at 9?" the answer is no. You don't need to explain why. You are booked. When you start doing this, you shift from a victim identity to an architect identity. A victim wakes up and asks, "What do I have to do today?" An architect wakes up and looks at the blueprint they created. Start small. Do not try to reclaim 24 hours overnight. Start with one micro boundary. Protect 1 hour a day. Maybe it's your morning hour. Maybe it's your lunch break. Defend that hour with your life. When you successfully guard that block against the onslaught of the world, you will feel a surge of power. You will realize that the cage door was unlocked the whole time. The guilt trap. As you begin to execute this, something uncomfortable will happen. People will push back. Your boss might look annoyed. Your friends might be confused why you aren't instantly available. You will feel a wave of guilt. You will worry that you are becoming selfish. This is the final trap. You must understand that selfishness in the pursuit of a higher goal is actually service. If you burn yourself out saying yes to everyone, you are of no use to anyone. You become a hollow shell, resentful and tired. By protecting your time, you preserve your energy and your capacity to do great work. You are not saying, "I don't care about you." You are saying, "I care enough about my contribution to protect the time required to make it." Do not overcorrect and become a hermit. You can still have others' blocks, but they should be there because you placed them there, not because you fell into them. The empty block. By the time you master the concepts in this chapter, your calendar will look different. You will see white space. You will see blocks labeled deep work or strategy or writing. You will have fought the battles, said the hard no's, and reclaimed the territory of your day. You are now the owner of your hours. But here is the catch. Ownership is only the container. You have cleared the land, built the walls, and locked the gate. You are sitting in your chair, the phone is silent, the door is closed, and you have 2 hours of pure, unadulterated time stretching out before you. And this is where the real battle begins. Because an empty hour is terrifying. When the noise stops, the silence gets loud. You will find that owning the time is easy compared to the next challenge. You can have all the time in the world, but if your mind is a fractured mess of tabs, impulses, and wandering thoughts, you will waste that protected hour just as surely as if you had given it away. You have built the fortress. Now, you have to survive what's inside it. We need to talk about the silent executioner of your best ideas. We need to talk about your attention. Chapter 4, Ruthless Focus. Imagine a 100-watt light bulb. It illuminates a small room, casting a gentle, diffused glow. It is useful, but it is passive. Now take that exact same 100 watts of energy and channel it through a mechanism that aligns the light waves into a single, coherent beam. You no longer have a light bulb, you have a laser, and a laser of that intensity can cut through steel. Same energy, different result. Most people live their lives like the light bulb. They spray their attention in every direction. A little bit on work, a little bit on the phone, a little bit on the conversation, a little bit on the worry in the back of their mind. They feel busy because their energy is being used, but they make no impact because that energy is diffused. They are warm, but they are not powerful. The 1% are lasers. They understand that attention is a finite resource, perhaps the most limited resource on the planet. They do not sprinkle their time like mist, they channel it like a fire hose. When they are working, they are not kind of working. They are entirely terrifyingly present. You have already learned how to stop the leaks in your day and how to claim ownership of your calendar. But an empty block on a calendar is worthless if your mind is a chaotic mess of tabs, notifications, and impulses. You can sit in a chair for 4 hours, but if your attention is fractured, you will produce 15 minutes of real value. This chapter is about converting your energy from a glow into a beam. It is about the art of ruthless focus. The high cost of switching. There is a silent tax you pay every single day, and it is bankrupting your potential. It is called the switching cost. You think you are multitasking. You think you are a modern wizard juggling emails, Slack messages, and a complex project all at once. You are lying to yourself. The human brain cannot multitask. It can only task switch. Every time you jump from your work to a text message and back again, your brain has to shut down one context and boot up another. Imagine you are pushing a heavy boulder up a hill. That is deep work. Every time you stop to check a notification, you let the boulder roll back to the bottom. When you return to the work, you aren't just resuming, you are starting over. You have to overcome the inertia all over again. This is why you can spend 8 hours at your desk and feel exhausted, yet have nothing to show for it. You didn't do 8 hours of work, you did 4 hours of work and 4 hours of switching. You burned all your fuel restarting the engine. The 1% guard against this fragmentation with aggressive defensiveness. They know that 1 hour of deep, uninterrupted focus is worth more than 4 hours of scattered, distracted effort. Focus is a force multiplier. It compresses time. What takes a distracted person a week to finish, a focused person finishes before lunch. The Monotasking Manifesto. To join the 1%, you must kill the pride you feel in doing it all. Multitasking is not a skill. It is a weakness. It is an addiction to low-value stimulation. The new standard is monotasking, the ability to do one thing and only one thing until it is done or the time block is over. This requires a fundamental redesign of your environment. You cannot rely on willpower. Willpower is a battery, and it drains quickly. If your phone is on your desk, you will check it. It doesn't matter how disciplined you think you are, the visual cue triggers a subconscious itch. If you have 20 tabs open in your browser, you will click them. The environment always wins. The 1% design spaces that demand focus. They treat their workspace like a cockpit. When they sit down, the phone is in another room. The notifications are silenced, not on vibrate, but off. The browser has one tab open. They strip away the default temptations until the only thing left to do is the work itself. You must also build a ritual. Your brain is a creature of habit. If you sit down and immediately open social media, you have trained your brain that desk equals distraction. You need to retrain it. You need a focus ritual. It can be simple. Clear the desk, put on a specific pair of headphones, and start a timer. Do this every single time. Eventually, the moment you put on those headphones, your brain will drop into gear automatically. You are building a Pavlovian response for productivity. The myth of the juggler. We need to dismantle the stories you tell yourself to justify your scattered brain. The biggest one is, I'm a natural multitasker. No, you are not. Science is clear on this. When you think you are multitasking effectively, you are actually just doing several things poorly and slowly. You are addicted to the dopamine hit of new information, not the satisfaction of deep achievement. The second myth is, I'll focus when I'm in the mood. You are waiting for a lightning bolt of inspiration. You want the work to feel effortless before you begin. This is amateur thinking. The 1% do not wait for the mood. They summon it. They know that focus is a result of action, not a prerequisite for it. You start working, and then you get focused. You do not get focused and then start working. The third myth is the most dangerous. Distraction is harmless. You think a 30-second check of the news doesn't matter. But it isn't just 30 seconds. It is the attention residue that lingers for 20 minutes after you look away. Your brain is still processing the headline while you are trying to write the report. That quick check just made you 20% dumber for the next half hour. Distraction is not entertainment, it is self-sabotage. The protocol of deep work. So how do you actually do this? You don't just try harder, you use a system. First, you work in defined focus blocks. The human brain has a limit. You cannot hold laser focus for 8 hours straight. Use blocks of 25 to 50 minutes. During this block, you are unreachable. The world does not exist. You are in a submarine. If the building is not on fire, you do not break the seal. Second, you define the target. A focus block is not for working on the project. That is too vague. It is for drafting the introduction to the report. Specificity drives focus. If you don't know exactly what you're trying to finish, your mind will wander. Third, use the one-question method. Write this question on a sticky note and put it right in front of your face. What is the one thing I am doing right now? When your mind drifts, and it will, look at the note. It acts as a tether, pulling you back from the clouds of distraction to the concrete reality of the task at hand. Finally, you must eliminate the digital noise before you start. This means the phone goes in a drawer or another room. It means the email tab is closed. You are creating a vacuum where the only option is to work. Taming the digital hydra. The internet is designed to fracture your attention. It is a hydra. Cut off one head and two more appear. You need weapons to fight it. Adopt the 3-tab rule. At any given moment, you are allowed a maximum of 3 tabs open in your browser. If you need to open a fourth, you must close one of the existing 3. This forces you to make a decision. It prevents the tab explosion that leads to mental clutter. It keeps your digital workspace as clean as your physical one. Use focus anchors. These are physical objects or sensory inputs that signal to your brain that it is time to work. For many, it is noise-canceling headphones. Even if no music is playing, the pressure on your ears signals isolation mode. For others, it is a specific beverage or a specific pen. Find your anchor and use it consistently. And when your own brain tries to sabotage you with a random thought, I need to buy toothpaste, or I wonder who won the game, use a parking lot. Keep a notepad next to you. When an intrusive thought appears, write it down immediately and get back to work. Do not act on it. By writing it down, you tell your brain, I have captured this so you can stop reminding me. You release the cognitive loop without breaking your focus. The withdrawal symptoms. When you first start this, it will not feel good. You will feel bored. You will feel restless. You will feel a phantom vibration in your pocket where your phone used to be. This is normal. This is withdrawal. You have spent years training your brain to crave constant, low-value stimulation. When you cut off the supply, your brain will throw a tantrum. It will scream for a hit of dopamine. Do not give in. This restlessness is the sensation of your attention span healing. It is the feeling of your brain relearning how to go deep. If you can push through the first 10 minutes of agitation, you will break through to the other side. You will enter flow, that state where time disappears, the work becomes effortless, and you produce at a level that surprises even you. The outcome of the laser. When you master ruthless focus, you become a dangerous competitor. You finish tasks in 40 minutes that take your peers 4 hours. You leave the office with energy because you haven't burned your battery on switching costs. You develop a reputation for deep, high-quality work in a world that is drowning in shallow, half-finished efforts. You will find that you need fewer hours to produce better outcomes. Focus becomes your default mode, not a rare exception. You stop being a busy person and start being a productive person. But there's a trap waiting for you here. A trap that catches even the most focused, disciplined people. You can be the most focused person in the world. You can have a perfect calendar, 0 distractions, and a laser-like mind. You can execute tasks with blinding speed and precision. But what if you are executing the wrong things? It is entirely possible to be efficient without being effective. You can spend your entire life climbing a ladder with incredible focus, only to realize at the top that it was leaning against the wrong wall. We have fixed how you work. Now we must ruthlessly examine what you are working on. We need to talk about the difference between moving fast and actually going somewhere. We need to talk about the seduction of the checklist. Chapter 5, Beyond Busyness. How are you? It is the most common question in the world, and the answer is almost always the same. I'm so busy. You say it with a sigh, but there is a hidden glimmer of pride in your eyes. You say it as if your exhaustion is proof of your importance. You wear your stress like a badge of honor, convinced that if you are running around with your hair on fire, you must be doing something right. We have created a culture that worships the grind. We applaud the person who sleeps 4 hours a night. We give promotions to the person who answers emails at midnight. We have convinced ourselves that the more we do, the more we achieve. But this is a lie. Busyness is not a virtue. It is often a sign of a chaotic mind and a lack of priority. It is a drug we take to numb the fear that we aren't actually making a difference. You can be the busiest person in the room and still be the least effective. You can run a marathon in a circle and end up exactly where you started, sweating and exhausted, with nothing to show for it but worn-out shoes. This chapter is about killing the cult of busy. It is about stripping away the noise, the frantic motion, and the vanity metrics that make you feel productive without actually moving your life forward. It is about learning the difference between movement and progress. The treadmill of vanity. Most people measure their day by input. They count the hours they sat at their desk. They count the number of emails they sent. They count the meetings they attended. They look at a full calendar and feel a sense of security. Look at all this activity, they think. I am working hard. The 1% do not care about input. They care exclusively about output. They do not ask, how many hours did I work? They ask what actually changed because of my work. This is a terrifying shift to make because it exposes the truth about your day. When you look at your life through the lens of output, you realize that 80% of your busyness is total garbage. It is fake progress. It is the administrative fluff, the endless preparation, the reorganizing of files, and the meetings about meetings that fill the void but produce no result. We cling to these tasks because they are safe. Answering email is easy. It feels like work, but it carries no risk of failure. Creating something new, making a hard decision, or shipping a project, that is scary. That carries the risk of rejection. So we hide in the busy work. We use busyness as a shield to protect us from the work that actually matters. We tell ourselves we are too swamped to launch that project, but the truth is, we are just filling our time with noise to avoid the silence where the real work lives. The energy audit. There is a physical cost to this delusion. You might think that doing 20 small things is easier than doing one big thing, but your brain disagrees. Every time you switch tasks, you burn glucose. Every time you shift from a deep project to a Slack notification, you pay a cognitive tax. When you spend your day reacting, jumping from crisis to crisis, tab to tab, you are redlining your engine while in neutral. You end the day feeling completely drained, not because you did deep work, but because you spent all your energy on friction. You are burning your prime fuel on tasks that a minimum wage assistant or a simple piece of software could do. The 1% guard their energy even more jealously than their time. They understand the Pareto principle, which states that 20% of your activities result in 80% of your desired outcomes. The other 80% of your activities are just noise. The goal of this chapter is to give you the courage to ignore the 80% so you can double down on the 20%. It is about doing less, but doing it with lethal intention. The needle and the haystack. So, how do you separate the signal from the noise? You need a new filter for your to-do list. You need to distinguish between fake progress and real progress. Fake progress looks like this: researching the best software for a project you haven't started, reformatting a spreadsheet, checking your analytics for the fifth time today, responding to a message that didn't ask a question. These tasks give you a dopamine hit. You get to check a box, but nothing has changed in the real world. Real progress looks like this: hitting publish, sending the proposal, having the difficult conversation, making the decision. Real progress usually results in an asset being created or a roadblock being removed. It is binary. It is done or it is not. To operate at the 1% level, you must become allergic to fake progress. You must look at a task and ask, does this move the needle or does it just spin the wheel? If it just spins the wheel, you must ruthlessly eliminate it, delegate it, or contain it. The rule of 3. You cannot do everything. The moment you accept this, you become free. The myth that everything is important is what keeps you trapped in the cycle of busyness. If everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. To break this cycle, we are going to use a strategy that is deceptively simple but difficult to execute because it requires you to say no to almost everything. It is called the Daily Big Three. Every morning, before you open your email, before you check the news, before you let the world dictate your agenda, you are going to define 3 outcomes, not 10, not 5, 3. You are going to ask yourself, if I only get 3 things done today, what 3 things would make this day a win? These 3 things must be real progress tasks. They must be needle movers. Check email is not a big 3 item. Finish the draft of the presentation is. Call mom might be a big 3 item if maintaining that relationship is a core value you've been neglecting. Once you have your big 3, the rest of your day is just support. Your entire schedule should be designed to ensure those 3 things happen. If you finish your big 3 by 11 a.m., you have had a successful day, even if you do nothing else. If you answer 500 emails but miss your big 3, you have failed. This clarity is painful at first. It forces you to admit that the other 17 items on your to-do list are not actually critical. It forces you to confront the reality that you can't do it all, but it also gives you a target. Instead of shooting into the dark, you have a bullseye. Grading your life. Once you have your big 3, what do you do with the rest of the mess? You grade it. Think of your tasks like a report card. Your big 3 are your A tasks. These are the tasks that build your future. They are the investment tasks. Then you have your B tasks. These are the support tasks. They are important, but they don't move the needle on their own. They are the maintenance blocks we discussed earlier. Finally, you have the C tasks. This is the noise, the low-value paperwork, the trivial requests, the things you do just to be polite. The strategy of the 1% is simple. You never do a B task until your A tasks are in motion, and you try to starve the C tasks until they die. You might be thinking, but I have to do the C tasks. If I don't answer those emails, people will get mad. Maybe, but ask yourself this: if I don't do this, what actually breaks? You will be shocked by how often the answer is nothing. We treat every incoming request as a crisis, but most of them are just other people's boredom or anxiety disguised as urgency. If you ignore a C-level email for 24 hours, often the problem solves itself. If you decline a C-level meeting, the company does not collapse. The containment strategy. Of course, there are some shallow tasks you simply must do to keep your job or your life running. You have to pay bills. You have to answer your boss. The trick is not to ignore them, but to contain them. This is where time boxing becomes your weapon. Most people let shallow work bleed into their entire day. They keep their inbox open from 9 to 5, answering messages as they arrive. This destroys focus and turns your day into Swiss cheese. Instead, give your shallow work a cage. Decide that you will handle all admin, email, and C-level tasks between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. During that hour, you go fast. You don't worry about quality, you worry about speed. You are clearing the deck. But when the hour is up, the cage closes. You do not let the shallow work escape and infect your deep work hours. The midday pivot. Even with the best plan, the drift will happen. You will get sucked into a conversation. You will find yourself down a rabbit hole of research. the busyness will try to reclaim you. You need a circuit breaker. Set an alarm on your phone for 1 p.m. When it goes off, ask yourself the one real win question. Have I created one real win yet today? If the answer is yes, great, keep going. If the answer is no, stop everything. Do not pass go. Do not answer another email. Pivot immediately to the most important item on your big 3 list and attack it with everything you have. You have half a day left to save the day. This question snaps you out of the trance. It reminds you that being busy is not the goal. Winning is the goal, and winning requires finishing something that matters. The identity upgrade. The final step in escaping the busyness trap is an identity shift. You have to stop wanting to look busy. In many workplaces, the person who sits calmly at their desk, staring at the ceiling and thinking, looks like they are slacking off. The person typing furiously and running to meetings looks like a superstar. You have to have the confidence to be the person staring at the ceiling. You have to be willing to be misunderstood. You have to be willing to say no to the low-value committee so you can say yes to the high-value project. You have to realize that effective person looks very different from busy person. Effective people are often hard to reach. They are not always online. They do not reply instantly, but when they deliver excellence. They deliver results that change the trajectory of the business or their lives. Busy people are always available. They are always helpful. They are always on it. But 5 years from now, they will be in exactly the same position, exhausted and wondering why they haven't moved forward. The silence before the start. By now, you have stopped the leaks. You have taken ownership of your calendar. You have learned to focus, and you have stripped away the fake busyness that was clogging your days. You are standing in a clearing. The noise is gone. The distractions are silenced. You have identified your big 3. You know exactly what you need to do. The path is wide open. And yet you aren't moving. You are staring at the task, the real, important, needle-moving task, and you feel a strange resistance. It isn't that you don't have time. You have the time. It isn't that you don't know how. You know how. It is something else, a heaviness, a friction, a voice in your head that says, I'll just get a glass of water first, or I'll just organize my desk one more time, or I'll start this at the top of the hour. You have cleared the external obstacles, but now you are facing the internal enemy, the one that has killed more dreams than lack of time ever could. It is the gap between your decision and your action. And if we don't close that gap, everything you have learned so far is useless. We need to talk about the lie of later. Chapter 6, now not later. I'll do it tomorrow. It is the most comforting lie in the human language. It feels like a promise, but it is actually a narcotic. When you say it, you get a tiny hit of relief. The pressure lifts. The anxiety of the difficult task dissolves, replaced by the soothing idea that a future version of you, one who is more energetic, more focused, and more disciplined, will handle it. You are hallucinating. That future version of you does not exist. The person who wakes up tomorrow is going to be exactly the same person who went to sleep tonight, only with more guilt and less time. Procrastination is not a quirk. It is not a cute personality trait. It is a form of self-betrayal. It is the act of looking your future self in the eye and saying, I don't care about you. You are reading this because you are tired of the gap between your intentions and your actions. You are tired of the heavy, suffocating dread that hangs over your head when you know there is something you should be doing, but you just aren't. This chapter is the bridge across that gap. We are going to dismantle the psychology of delay and replace it with a bias for immediate action. We are going to teach you how to become the person who starts. The high cost of tomorrow. We need to reframe what procrastination actually is. Most people think it is about being lazy. It isn't. You can be incredibly busy and still be a procrastinator. You can clean your entire house, organize your desktop, and answer 50 trivial emails, all to avoid writing the one proposal that actually matters. That isn't laziness. That is fear dressed up as productivity. The core mechanism at play here is something economists call temporal discounting. Your brain is wired to overvalue immediate comfort and undervalue future rewards. The pain of doing the work is right here, right now. The reward of finishing the project is far away and abstract. So your brain chooses the immediate relief of delay. But this relief is not free. You are paying for it with your life. Every time you delay a task, you are stealing from your future. You are borrowing time at a predatory interest rate. When you put off a task for a week, you haven't just moved it, you have compounded the stress attached to it. You have taken a difficult task and turned it into a terrifying one. The most dangerous cost, however, is not lost time. It is lost confidence. Every time you tell yourself, I'm going to do this, and then you don't, you are teaching your brain that your word means nothing. You are eroding your own self-respect. Eventually, you stop setting big goals because deep down, you know you won't follow through. You shrink your ambition to match your inability to start. The 1% understand that self-confidence is not a feeling. It is a reputation you build with yourself, and you build it by doing the things you said you would do, exactly when you said you would do them. The lies that paralyze. To break the habit of delay, we have to kill the myths you use to justify it. These are the stories you tell yourself to make the inaction feel rational. The biggest lie is the myth of motivation. You are waiting to feel like it. You are waiting for the clouds to part and a beam of inspiration to strike you in the chest. You think that high performers wake up every day bursting with excitement to do hard things. They don't. The 1% feel the same resistance you do. They just don't respect it. They understand that motivation is a byproduct of action, not a prerequisite for it. You don't feel your way into acting. You act your way into feeling. If you wait until you are ready, you will be waiting for the rest of your life. The second lie is the pressure performer myth. You tell yourself, I work best under pressure. No, you don't. You work fastest under pressure because fear has finally overridden your apathy. But the quality of work you produce at 2 a.m., fueled by panic and adrenaline, is rarely your best work. It is survival work. Moreover, living in a constant state of crisis destroys your long-term capacity. You cannot build a 1% life if you are constantly putting out fires that you started yourself. The third lie is the calm horizon fantasy. I'll start when things settle down. I'll write the book when the kids are older. I'll launch the business when the economy is better. Things never settle down. Entropy is the natural state of the universe. Life only gets more complex, not less. If you cannot learn to move inside the chaos, you will never move at all. The physics of starting. So how do we override millions of years of evolutionary programming that wants us to seek comfort? We don't use willpower. Willpower is exhaustible. We use physics. Specifically, we use the physics of friction. The hardest part of any task is the first 2 minutes. It is the launch. Once you are in motion, it is relatively easy to stay in motion. The resistance is almost entirely concentrated at the starting line. Therefore, the strategy is to lower the bar so low that you cannot fail to step over it. We call this the 2-minute doorway. You take the task you are dreading, writing a 10-page report, and you shrink it down to a doorway action that takes less than 2 minutes. Open the document and type the title. That's it. You are not allowed to worry about page 10. You are only responsible for the title. This works because it bypasses the amygdala, the fear center of your brain. Writing a report is scary. Typing a title is trivial. But once you type the title, a psychological shift happens. You have crossed the threshold. You are no longer thinking about working. You are working. The friction is gone, and momentum takes over. You will likely write the first paragraph, then the first page. The doorway gets you in the room. The launch codes. Sometimes, even the doorway feels too heavy. You are lying in bed or staring at your phone, and you are locked in a paralysis loop. You know you need to move, but your body won't obey. In these moments, you need a hard reset. You need a launch code. Use the 5-4-3-2-1 rule. When you feel the hesitation kick in, when you feel the urge to delay, you count backward from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. On go, you move. You stand up, you click the button, you pick up the phone. This sounds stupidly simple, but it is rooted in neuroscience. Counting backward requires focus. It interrupts the prefrontal cortex's habit of overanalyzing and rationalizing. It breaks the loop of should I or shouldn't I and forces a decision. It turns you from a thinker into a doer. The 1% train themselves to treat one as a command, not a suggestion. Eating the frog. There is a specific type of procrastination that is particularly poisonous: the dreaded task. This is the one big, ugly thing on your to-do list that you have been pushing from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday. It hangs over your entire week like a dark cloud. The strategy here is simple. Attack it first. Schedule a most avoided block as the very first thing you do in your day. Before you check email, before you have your coffee, before you talk to anyone, you eat the frog. You take your highest level of morning energy and you smash it against your biggest obstacle. The psychological payoff of this is massive. When you finish the thing you feared most by 9 a.m., the rest of the day feels light. You walk around with the swagger of a winner. You have defeated the dragon before breakfast. If you leave it for later, the dread will drain your battery all day long, making it even less likely you will do it in the afternoon. The 10-minute treaty. Sometimes the dreaded task is just too big. Your brain rebels. It screams, "I cannot do this for 3 hours." Fine. Don't do it for 3 hours. Make a treaty with your brain. Tell yourself, "I will do this for exactly 10 minutes. If I want to stop after 10 minutes, I have full permission to stop." You can do anything for 10 minutes. It is a manageable amount of suffering. But here is the trick. 90% of the time, when the 10-minute alarm goes off, you won't want to stop. You will have broken the surface tension. You will be in the flow. The anxiety was about starting, not doing. By giving yourself an out, you lower the stakes enough to begin. The trap of perfectionism. Often we delay because we are trying to protect our ego. We think, if I don't try, I can't fail. Or we think, if I can't do it perfectly, I shouldn't do it at all. This is perfectionism, and it is a disease. Perfectionism is just procrastination in a tuxedo. It looks fancy, but it is just as destructive. The 1% embrace the concept of aggressive imperfection. They would rather have a messy draft today than a perfect blank page tomorrow. You must learn to value motion over quality in the beginning. You can fix a bad page. You cannot fix a blank page. Give yourself permission to be bad. Give yourself permission to produce garbage. Just produce something. The momentum of the bad work will eventually lead to the good work. Stagnation leads to nothing. The recovery protocol. Finally, we must address what happens when you fail, because you will fail. You will have a day where you slip. You will watch 4 hours of TV instead of working. You will miss the deadline. The amateur takes this failure and turns it into a catastrophe. They say, "Well, I blew it. I guess I'm just lazy. I might as well give up." They turn a bad afternoon into a bad month. The 1% have a different rule: never miss twice. If you miss a workout, fine. You are human, but you do not miss the next one. If you waste a morning, you do not waste the afternoon. You do not judge yourself, you reset. You treat the slip as an anomaly, not an identity. The goal is not a perfect streak. The goal is a high batting average. The engine without a car. You now have the tools to destroy procrastination. You understand that later is a lie. You have the doorway to get you started, the countdown to break your paralysis, and the 10-minute treaty to trick your brain into focus. You know how to act now, not later. But there is a problem. You can have the most powerful engine in the world, the ability to take immediate action, but if you drop that engine into a pile of scrap metal, it won't take you anywhere. You can be ready to act, but if you wake up tomorrow to a day that is structurally designed for failure, your willpower will eventually snap. You have the drive, you have the focus, you have the ownership, but you are still operating within a framework of chaos. You are trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of sand. To truly join the 1%, you cannot just rely on your ability to push through resistance. You need to build a machine that pulls you towards success automatically. You need to stop waking up and improvising your life. You need to stop hoping the day goes well and start engineering it so it has no choice. It is time to stop surviving your calendar and start designing it. Chapter 7. Design your days. You wake up, you grab your phone, you check your email, you see 3 urgent requests, a text from a friend, and a breaking news headline. You get out of bed, already reacting. You rush through your morning routine, head to work, and spend 8 hours putting out fires. You get home, exhausted, and realize you didn't do a single thing that actually moves your life forward. You survived the day, but you didn't use it. This is how 99% of people live. They treat their day like a slot machine, pulling the handle and hoping for a lucky combination of energy and time. They rely on willpower to make good decisions in the heat of the moment. Here is the truth. Willpower is a battery, and it leaks. If you rely on your mood to dictate your actions, you will lose. The 1% do not wake up and ask, "What do I feel like doing today?" They wake up and execute a code they wrote the night before. They do not survive their days, they design them. This chapter is about moving from improvisation to architecture. It is about taking the raw material of time, those 24 hours you now respect as currency, and building a structure that forces you to succeed. You are going to learn how to turn your day into a quiet, relentless machine that pulls you toward your goals, even when you are tired, unmotivated, or overwhelmed. The bankruptcy of winging it. Most people believe that a plan is a to-do list. They write down 10 things they want to achieve, stare at the list, and then let the chaos of the day decide which ones get done. Usually, it's the easiest ones, or the ones that other people are screaming about. This approach ignores a fundamental reality: decision fatigue. Every time you have to decide what to do next, you burn a little bit of cognitive fuel. By 2 p.m., your decision-making tank is empty. That is when you default to the path of least resistance: scrolling, snacking, or doing shallow work. An unstructured day is a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. If you do not fill your day with high-value intention, the world will fill it with low-value noise. Other people's emergencies will flood in. Distractions will expand to fill the available space. Designing your day is not about being a robot. It is about stress relief. There is a profound calmness that comes from looking at your day and knowing exactly where the pieces fit. When you have a blueprint, you don't have to worry about whether you're doing the right thing. You just follow the plan. You move from the anxiety of "what should I do" to the clarity of "this is what I am doing." The 3 buckets of time. Before we put anything on a calendar, we need a framework. You cannot just pile tasks into hours. You need to understand the nature of the activity. The 1% categorize every single minute of their day into one of 3 buckets: future, maintenance, or noise. Future time is the holy grail. This is time spent on activities that build a better tomorrow. It is writing the book, building the business, learning the code, or lifting the weight. This is the work that compounds. If you stopped doing it, your life wouldn't fall apart today, but your future would wither. Maintenance time is the cost of doing business. It is the time spent keeping your current life from falling apart. It is answering emails, paying bills, commuting, and doing laundry. It is necessary, but it does not move the needle. It just keeps the car on the road. Noise is waste. It is the scrolling, the worrying, the gossip, and the fake busyness we destroyed in Chapter 5. The tragedy of the average person is that their day is 80% maintenance and 20% noise, with 0% future. They run on a hamster wheel, sweating and working hard, but waking up in the exact same place 10 years later. The goal of designing your day is simple. You must carve out a protected block for future time, contain maintenance time into tight windows, and ruthlessly eliminate noise. The prison of spontaneity. But I don't want to plan every minute. I want to be free. I want to be spontaneous. I hear this excuse constantly. It is the battle cry of the amateur. You think that structure kills freedom. You are wrong. Structure creates freedom. Jocko Willink, a former Navy SEAL commander, famously says, "Discipline equals freedom." If you don't have a plan, you are not free. You are a slave to your impulses and to other people's demands. You are a slave to the immediate dopamine hit. Real freedom is having the time to do what you love because you finished your work efficiently. Real freedom is looking at your bank account and seeing wealth because you consistently invested time in high-value skills. That freedom is bought with the currency of structure. Creative professionals, writers, artists, designers, often resist this the most. They think they need to wait for the muse. But if you look at the daily routines of the most prolific artists in history, they were boringly consistent. They didn't wait for inspiration. They had a time block. They sat down at 9 a.m. and worked until noon. They built a cage for their muse to show up in. Stop romanticizing chaos. Disorder is not authentic. It is just messy. And stop trusting your memory. "I'll keep the plan in my head" is a lie. Your brain is a processing unit, not a hard drive. When stress hits, your mental plan evaporates. You need to see your day laid out visually, like a map of the territory you intend to conquer. The architecture of a win. So how do we build this machine? We use a technique called time blocking. This means assigning a specific job to a specific chunk of time. If a task doesn't have a time block, it doesn't exist. The first step is the future first rule. You must schedule your future time block as early in the day as possible. Why? Because the day gets more chaotic as it goes on. Your boss will call, your kids will get sick, the internet will break. If you schedule your most important work for 4 p.m., you are betting against the house. The house always wins. Schedule your future block for 8 a.m. or 6 a.m. or whatever your first practical hour is. Protect this hour like it is a meeting with the president. If someone asks for this time, the answer is no. You are booked. Next, create maintenance blocks. Do not check email sporadically throughout the day. Create a block from 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. called admin comms. Do all of it then close the inbox. By batching these tasks, you prevent them from bleeding into your deep work. Finally, include recovery blocks. You are biological, not mechanical. You cannot focus for 10 hours straight. Schedule breaks, real breaks, not checking Instagram breaks, but walking away from the screen breaks. These are not wasted minutes. They are the recharge time that makes the next block possible. The buffer zone. Here is where most people fail at time blocking. They create a schedule that looks like a Tetris game played by a perfectionist. Every minute is accounted for, back to back, with zero margin for error. Then, a phone call runs 5 minutes late. The whole schedule collapses like a house of cards. You feel like a failure, so you abandon the system. You must engineer for chaos. You must use buffer blocks. Leave 30 minutes open in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon. Label them buffer. If a meeting runs long, it eats the buffer, not your future block. If an urgent request comes in, slot it into the buffer. If nothing goes wrong, a miracle, use the buffer to get ahead or to rest. A bridge is built with expansion joints so it doesn't snap in the heat. Your day needs expansion joints. Plan for 60% of your capacity, not 100%. If you plan for 100% efficiency, one hiccup ruins your day. If you plan for 60%, you can handle the inevitable fires and still win. The visual blueprint. Every morning, or better yet, every night before bed, draw a simple timeline of your day. It doesn't need to be digital. A notebook is fine. Draw a line down the page. Mark the hours. Now shade in your blocks. Make your future block a distinct color. When you look at that page, you should see exactly when you are building your life and when you are just maintaining it. Keep this blueprint open on your desk. This visual cue is powerful. When you get distracted, you look down. The paper screams at you. Right now, you are supposed to be writing. Why are you on Twitter? It acts as an external conscience. It reduces the decision fatigue because the decision has already been made. You are just the executor of the plan. Theme days. As you get more advanced, you can move from designing hours to designing days. This is the concept of theme days. Context switching is the enemy of focus. It takes energy to switch your brain from creative mode to manager mode. So, try to batch entire days. Maybe Monday is admin and meetings day. You stack every call, every report, every low-value task onto Monday. It's a grueling day, but it keeps the rest of the week clean. Maybe Wednesday is deep work day. No meetings, no calls, just pure future time. Even if you have a traditional job and can't control your whole week, you can use theme hours. Mornings are for creation. Afternoons are for collaboration. By grouping similar tasks, you reduce the friction of switching gears. You become a factory line of efficiency. The perfectionist's trap. There is a danger lurking in this system. You will design the perfect day. You will have your color-coded blocks. You will feel organized and powerful. And then life will punch you in the face. You will sleep through your alarm. Your car won't start. You will have a migraine. You will look at your beautiful plan at 10 a.m. and realize you have already failed. The temptation will be to say, well, the day is ruined. I'll start again tomorrow. This is the loser's mindset. This is perfectionism masquerading as standards. The 1% do not need the day to be perfect. They need it to be effective. If you miss your future block in the morning, do not scrap the day. Find 15 minutes in the afternoon. Salvage something. If you can't do the whole workout, do 10 minutes of push-ups. The goal is not to perfectly adhere to a piece of paper. The goal is to make progress. The plan is a tool to serve you, not a master to enslave you. If the plan breaks, fix it on the fly. Adjust, adapt, but do not stop moving. The silent accumulation. When you start living this way, the change will feel subtle at first. You won't win the lottery on day 1. You won't become a CEO on day 3. But you will notice a change in the texture of your life. The chaos will recede. The anxiety of what am I forgetting will vanish. You will go to bed with a good tired feeling, the exhaustion of execution, not the exhaustion of stress. You will start to see empty space in your life. Time that used to be eaten by noise is now available for rest or play. You will realize that by putting your life in a cage of structure, you have actually set it free. But designing one day is just the beginning. A single perfect day is a brick. A brick is solid, it is useful, but a brick is not a house. To build the castle of the 1% life, you need to lay these bricks one after another, day after day, year after year. You need to understand how these individual days stack on top of each other. You need to understand the force that turns a boring, repetitive, structured hour into a massive, unstoppable advantage that looks like magic to the outside world. We have designed the container. Now we need to talk about what happens when you fill that container with the same action over and over again for a very long time. We need to talk about the math of greatness. Chapter 8, Compound Tomorrow. If you were offered a choice between $3 million in cash right now or a single penny that doubles in value every day for 31 days, which would you take? Most people, driven by the desire for immediate gratification, would grab the $3 million. They would look at the penny, laugh, and walk away. They would feel rich for a moment. But the person who chose the penny would watch it grow. On day 5, they would have 16 cents. On day 10, $5. By day 20, they would have $5,000, still far behind the $3 million. But then the magic happens. The curve turns vertical. On day 31, that penny is worth over $10 million. This is the power of compound interest. We understand it in finance. We know that small amounts of money invested consistently over time turn into fortunes. Yet when it comes to our time, our skills, and our lives, we completely ignore this law. We act like day traders, chasing the quick win, the big break, or the overnight success. We ignore the penny. We ignore the 20 minutes of reading, the 30 minutes of coding, or the single hour of deep work. We think they are too small to matter. You are reading this chapter because you are done chasing the $3 million of instant gratification. You are ready to become the person who bets on the penny. You are ready to understand that the 1% life is not built by heroic sprints. It is built by boring, quiet, relentless compounding. The math of invisibility. We live in a culture that fetishizes the big push. We love the montage sequence in movies where the hero transforms their life in 3 minutes of high-intensity training. We tell ourselves that to achieve something great, we need a sabbatical, a retreat, or a massive block of free time. We say, I'll write my book when I have a free month. You will never have a free month. And even if you did, you wouldn't write the book. You would procrastinate because the pressure would be too high. The 1% play a different game. They play the game of accumulation. Let's look at the math. If you carve out just one future hour a day, one single hour of focused, deep work on a high-value asset, that equals 365 hours a year. Do you know what 365 hours is? That is 9 full 40-hour work weeks. That is more than 2 months of full-time work dedicated exclusively to your most important goal. Imagine what you could build with 9 weeks of uninterrupted focus. You could learn a new language. You could build the MVP of a software product. You could write the first draft of a novel. You could master a complex skill that doubles your income. This is how you break free from the feeling of being stuck. You are not stuck because you lack talent. You are stuck because you are sporadic. You work hard for 3 days, then quit for 2 weeks. You sprint, then you crash. That is not compounding. That is zero-sum chaos. Compounding requires continuity. It requires you to show up on the days you don't feel like it, adding another small brick to the wall, knowing that eventually you will have a castle. Time as an asset class. To master this, you must change how you view the output of your time. Most people spend their time on consumables. They answer an email. It will be buried tomorrow. They attend a status meeting. It will be forgotten by lunch. They watch a show. It is gone when the credits roll. The 1% invest their time in assets. An asset is something you build once that pays you forever. When you spend an hour learning a high-value software tool, that is an asset. You keep that skill. When you spend an hour writing a timeless article, that is an asset. It can attract opportunities for years. When you spend an hour automating a repetitive task, that is an asset. It buys you free time every single day moving forward. You need to start measuring your days not by how busy you were, but by what you added to your future me portfolio. Ask yourself at the end of the day, did I just tread water or did I build a raft? This requires a shift in identity. You must stop seeing yourself as a worker who gets paid for hours and start seeing yourself as an investor who gets paid for assets. When you adopt this identity, the decision to waste time becomes painful. You aren't just killing time, you are killing your future returns. The myths of magnitude. There are 3 lies that stop people from compounding their tomorrow. These lies convince you that small efforts are worthless, keeping you paralyzed in a state of inaction. The first lie is, if it's not huge, it doesn't matter. You think that writing 200 words is a waste of time because you need 50,000 for a book. You think that exercising for 15 minutes is pointless. This is the all-or-nothing trap. The 1% know that 0 is the enemy. Anything above 0 compounds. A small step taken today is infinitely more powerful than a perfect step planned for tomorrow. The second lie is, I need big blocks of time. You are waiting for the perfect Saturday. You are waiting for the kids to go to camp. You are waiting for retirement. Life rarely hands you 4-hour blocks of silence. Life hands you 20-minute fragments in between the chaos. If you cannot build your future in 20-minute chunks, you will never build it. The person who writes for 20 minutes a day finishes the book. The person waiting for the writing retreat never starts. The third lie is, I'll go all in later. This is the procrastination of the ambitious. You tell yourself that right now you are just surviving, but next year you will go all in. All in is a myth. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Intensity is fragile. It breaks under pressure. Consistency is flexible. It bends but doesn't break. If you won't do it for 20 minutes now, you certainly won't do it for 4 hours later. The 90-day asset build. So, how do we turn this theory into a concrete reality? We stop trying to change everything at once, and we focus on building one asset at a time. Pick one primary long-term asset, just one. Do not try to learn Spanish, start a drop shipping business, and get six-pack abs all in the same quarter. That is a recipe for failure. Choose the one thing that would have the highest impact on your future freedom or income. Commit to this focus for 90 days. Why 90? Because it is long enough to see real, tangible results, but short enough to see the finish line. Now, allocate your daily future hour to this asset. We discussed this in the previous chapter, but now we are giving it a specific mission. This hour is not for work, it is for this asset. If your asset is learn Python, then your future hour is for coding, not for checking tech news. Finally, run a weekly compounding review. Most people review their schedule to see what they have to do. You need to review your week to see what you have built. Ask yourself, is my asset more valuable today than it was on Monday? If the answer is no, you are not compounding, you are just spinning. The minimum viable commitment. There will be days when life attacks you. You will get sick. You will have a crisis at work. You will feel absolutely drained. On these days, the temptation to skip your future hour will be overwhelming. Do not skip, instead shrink. Adopt the minimum viable commitment. If you cannot do an hour, do 10 minutes. If you cannot write 500 words, write one sentence. If you cannot do the full workout, do one set of push-ups. Why? Because the goal on a bad day is not progress. The goal is to protect the habit. The chain of compounding is fragile in the beginning. If you break it, you lose the psychological momentum. By doing something, even something tiny, you vote for your identity as a person who shows up. You keep the penny doubling. Tiny but done beats ideal but skipped every single time. Anchors and chains. To lock this behavior in, you need to remove the decision-making process. If you have to decide when to do your future work every day, you will eventually decide not to. Use anchors. Attach your compounding habit to something you already do. After I pour my coffee, I write for 20 minutes. After I brush my teeth, I read 10 pages. The existing habit triggers the new one. You stop relying on willpower and start relying on automation. Then, make the streak visible. Get a physical calendar. Every day you complete your future work, even if it's just the minimum viable commitment, put a big red X on that day. Put this calendar where you can see it. After a week, you have a chain. After 2 weeks, the chain gets longer. Your only job is, don't break the chain. The visual pain of an empty square becomes a powerful motivator to do the work, even when you are tired. The explosion of results. If you follow this path, the results will follow a predictable pattern. For the first 30 days, you will feel like you are working hard for nothing. You will put in the hours, but the external world won't look much different. You might feel discouraged. This is the valley of disappointment. It is where 99% of people quit. They look at their penny and say, it's just 16 cents. This is stupid. But if you keep going, you enter the phase of momentum. After 90 days, you have a body of work. You have a skill that is noticeably sharper. You have a project that is taking shape. You start to trust the process. After a year or two, you hit the vertical part of the curve. Suddenly, opportunities start coming to you. People look at your output and ask, how did you do that? They call you talented. They call you lucky. They don't see the hundreds of boring, quiet hours you invested while they were watching Netflix. You will have built a life that looks unfair to everyone else. You will have more options, more income, and more freedom, not because you are a genius, but because you understood the math. The pitfalls of the long game. There are traps on this road. The biggest one is project hopping. You get bored with your asset after 3 weeks. It gets hard. Suddenly, a new, shiny idea appears. It looks easier. It looks more fun. So you abandon your half-built bridge to start building a new one. If you do this, you will end up with 10 half-built bridges and you will never cross the river. You must commit to the cycle. Do not switch focus until the 90 days are up or the asset is shipped. Park your new ideas on a someday list to get them out of your head, but do not let them hijack your hands. The other trap is perfectionism. You want every brick to be perfect, so you lay them too slowly. Remember, compounding relies on volume and consistency, not perfection. A messy draft that is finished is an asset. A perfect paragraph that is stuck in your head is nothing. The final integration. You now have the complete operating system. You understand the value of your stolen minutes. You have faced the hard truths of time. You have taken ownership of your schedule. You have learned to focus like a laser. You have killed fake busyness. You have defeated procrastination. You have designed your days, and now you understand how to compound those days into a massive future. You have all the mechanics. You have the engine, the fuel, and the map. But there is one final piece, the most important piece. You can know all of this intellectually, but if it remains a set of tactics you use, you will eventually stop using them. Tactics are exhausting. You cannot try hard for the rest of your life. To truly join the 1%, this cannot be something you do. It must become something you are. We need to move from behavior to being. We need to take these external strategies and fuse them into your internal soul so that you no longer have to think about them. We need to talk about the final transformation. We need to talk about what it feels like when the struggle ends and the new reality begins. Chapter 9, The 1% Life. Stop looking for a graduation ceremony. There will be no confetti. There will be no certificate in the mail. No one is going to tap you on the shoulder, hand you a gold membership card, and whisper, "Welcome to the 1%." If you are waiting for external validation to tell you that you have mastered your time, you will be waiting forever. The shift we have been building toward in this book is not an event. It is a quiet, invisible crossing of a threshold. It happens on a Tuesday morning when you wake up, look at your phone, and instead of diving into the chaos of other people's demands, you calmly place it face down and open your work. It happens when you look at a meeting invite that has no agenda and no purpose, and you decline it without a shred of guilt. It happens when you sit in a chair for 60 minutes, wrestling with a difficult problem, and you don't tab switch a single time. You are reading this final chapter because you are done with the life hacks. You are done with the sugar rush of motivational videos that leaves you empty an hour later. You are ready for the permanent shift. You are ready to integrate everything we have discussed into a singular, cohesive identity. This is where the tactics stop and the life begins. The code you now carry. Let's look at the person you were when you started this book versus the person you are now. The old you treated time like water in a sieve, something that just slipped through your fingers, leaving you wet and confused. The new you treats time like a loaded weapon. You have swallowed the hard pill of reality. Time is non-refundable. You now walk through your day seeing price tags on everything. When you see a distraction, you don't see fun. You see a purchase. You ask, am I willing to buy this hour of scrolling with a piece of my life? Because you know the cost, you stop buying the junk. You have moved from excuses to ownership. You have stopped blaming your boss, your spouse, or the economy for your schedule. You have looked in the mirror and admitted that your calendar is a reflection of your courage or lack thereof. You have taken back the pen. You are writing the script. You have replaced the frantic, scattered energy of multitasking with the cold, quiet intensity of the laser. You know that busyness is often just laziness wrapped in anxiety. You have learned to sit in the silence and do the deep work that scares you, because you know that is the only place where value is created. You have stopped lying to yourself about later. You know that later is the graveyard of dreams. You have the tools, the doorways, the countdowns, the treaties to bridge the gap between intention and action instantly. You act now because you know the future is built by the present. And finally, you have stopped relying on willpower. You have become an architect. You design days that pull you toward success. You stack small, boring hours on top of each other, knowing that the compound interest of effort will eventually create a result that looks like magic to everyone else. The death of the victim. The most profound shift you will feel as you live this 1% life is the death of helplessness. For years, you may have felt like a passenger in your own life. You felt buffeted by the winds of circumstance. I have to do this. I can't help it. I'm just so swamped. That language is gone now. In its place is a terrifying and exhilarating sense of control. You realize that you are the primary designer of your existence. When life gets chaotic, and it will, you don't collapse. You don't throw your hands up and say, "The day got away from me." You look at the chaos, you find your buffer blocks, you adjust your plan, and you execute. You move from confused to clear. You no longer wake up guessing. You have a mental model for every decision. Does this fit my future bucket? Is this maintenance? Is this noise? The agonizing friction of decision fatigue vanishes because you have a system that decides for you. You are no longer stuck in the mud of indecision. You are moving on the pavement of clarity. The presence paradox. There is a myth that people who are obsessed with time management are robots, cold, distant, and efficient to a fault. People worry that if they become too focused, they will lose their relationships. The opposite is true. The 1% are the most present people you will ever meet. Think about the normal person. They are physically at dinner with their family, but mentally, they are answering emails. They are playing with their kids, but they are checking notifications. They are talking to their spouse, but they are worrying about the project they didn't finish. They are half there, everywhere. When you own your hours, you compartmentalize. When you are in a deep work block, you are unreachable. But when you are in a relationship block, you are fully there. You aren't checking your phone because you know you have a designated time for that later. You aren't worrying about work because you know your system has captured it. Your no protects your yes. Because you don't overcommit, you become reliable. When you say you will be somewhere, you are there. When you say you will do something, it gets done. Your reputation shifts from well-intentioned but flaky to rock solid. Trust grows in the soil of reliability. By respecting your own time, you teach the world to respect it, and in turn, you give others the gift of your undivided attention. The unfair advantage. What happens when you run this operating system for a year? 5 years? 10 years? You become unrecognizable. You will finally finish the things you have been talking about for a decade. The book gets written, the business gets launched, the degree gets earned. Not because you found a magical pocket of free time, but because you used your future blocks to chip away at the mountain day after day while everyone else was waiting for a helicopter. You will master skills that others find too hard. While your peers are complaining that they don't have time to learn AI or a new language or financial modeling, you are investing 20 minutes a day. Over a year, that is over 120 hours of deliberate practice. You will become an expert in the margins of your day. You will redesign your trajectory. Most people drift through their careers, taking whatever path of least resistance appears. You will steer. You will prepare for leaps months in advance. You will build the assets, the network, the portfolio, the savings that allow you to make bold moves when the time is right. You will stop reacting to the market and start dictating your terms to it. From friction to flow. Right now, everything I have described sounds like work. It sounds like effort. You are thinking, I have to constantly monitor myself, track my time, and fight distraction. That is true for about 30 days. But here is the secret of the 1%. The struggle is temporary. The identity is permanent. At first, a system requires energy to run. You have to consciously force yourself to do the weekly review. You have to grit your teeth to put the phone away. But the human brain is an adaptation machine. Whatever you repeat, you normalize. Soon, the friction flips. It will start to feel weird not to plan your day. It will feel uncomfortable to have your phone notifications on. It will feel wrong to waste a morning. Your habits will calcify into your identity. You won't be trying to be productive. You will just be a person who respects time. The system will start to do the heavy lifting for you. You will spend less energy deciding and more energy doing. Your life will actually feel simpler, quieter, and easier, even as your results explode. You will achieve more with less stress because you are no longer fighting against the current of your own bad habits. The protocol for tomorrow. So where do you go from here? You do not close this book and say, "That was nice." You do not put it on the shelf and go back to your old life. You act now. First, run the 3-day time check. I don't care if you think you know where your time goes. You don't. For the next 3 days, track every single block. Do it honestly. Do not edit for pride. If you spent 2 hours watching cat videos, write it down. This baseline truth is the foundation of your new house. Second, design one future first hour for tomorrow, right now, before you go to sleep. Look at your calendar for tomorrow. Find the first available hour. Block it. Label it with your most important asset-building task. Clear the obstacles now. Put the phone in the other room, set up the files, get the coffee ready. When you wake up, you execute. This is your first real act of joining the 1%. Third, choose one practice to run for 30 days. Do not try to do everything in this book at once. Pick the daily big 3, or the 2-minute doorway, or the focus ritual. Commit to it as a non-negotiable experiment. Tell yourself, I can do anything for 30 days. Once that habit locks in, come back and pick another one. The empty chair. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a room. In the center of the room is a table with 2 chairs. You are sitting in one of them. The door opens, and in walks another version of you. This is you 10 years from now. Look at them. Look at how they carry themselves. Look at the life they have built. Look at the freedom they enjoy, the skills they possess, the impact they have made. They sit down across from you. They look you in the eye. They are completely dependent on you. They are the sum total of the choices you make starting the moment you close this book. Every time you choose focus over noise, you are sending them a deposit. Every time you choose ownership over excuses, you are building their house. Every time you compound a skill, you are writing their paycheck. Are they proud of you, or are they resentful that you sold their future for a cheap dopamine hit today? The 1% is not a club you join. It is a standard you uphold. It is a decision you make every time the clock ticks. It is the quiet, unglamorous, relentless commitment to the idea that your life is too valuable to be wasted on things that do not matter. You don't need a new year. You don't need a new job. You don't need permission. You need 1 hour. 1 hour treated like sacred equity. 1 hour where you shut out the world and build the future. Take that hour, take it today, take it tomorrow, and never give it back. The clock is ticking. The choice is yours. Be that 1%.